Okay, let's get into our first discussion of the day now. The chances of civil servants getting the 30,000 naira minimum wage this year is getting slimmer. But state governors will today meet President Muhammadu Buhari over the matter.
Well, the governors met in Abuja on Thursday but refused to brief reporters on what they discussed. The governors had argued that states lack the required resources to pay the 30,000 naira being demanded by labor as minimum wage. They had proposed 22,500 as what they can pay as minimum wage, maintaining that the only condition available to them if they must meet labor's demand is retrenchment, an alternative the workers have kicked against. All right, we have joining us in the studio to discuss the proposed new minimum wage and more especially the December 31 deadline, National Coordinator, Activists for Good Governance, Declan Ihekaire. Good morning and thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning, nice to see you.
We also have with us a fellow Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and the MD CEO Intervention and Results Limited, Femi Mokikon. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, I'd like to take it from from you. I mean, you are involved in intervention and results. With what? Yes. Now, the Labour, TUC, and of course the ASCSN has given this deadline of December 31, for government to act on 30,000 naira minimum wage, else there will be devastating consequences. That's how they have described what will happen. Okay. Let's take it from the end and then we'll backtrack. How do you think really this issue can be resolved?
It would be interesting to know what the devastating consequences would be. Usually when you hear that from Labour, we have only one alternative, and that is go on strike.
And shutting down the economy.
Shut down the system. I personally have argued consistently, if you go on strike for whatever number of days, at the end of the day, how do you resolve it? You still come back to the round table and talk. So rather than go on strike and cause all the damages, why don't you continue talking? You can talk for as long as you want to talk, but you will get a solution.
But do you think
to start with the strike first?
Do you think they are under pressure because of the elections coming up, so they can get what they want before the election?
Well, I don't want to link it to the election because this matter has been on for quite a while. And there are procedures for these issues. There are procedures. Let Labour explore all the various stages before they talk of a strike or devastating consequences. It says if you go into a negotiation, you are supposed to sign an agreement. If you fail to sign an agreement, there are laid down steps to follow. And then after every step, you get a solution. If eventually you don't get a solution, then you can resort to what you want to. But you have not explored, as far as I'm concerned, you have not explored all the options that are available. And the first thing we want to hear is a strike. First of all, you look at the ratio of the people that we are talking about in terms of how many people are actually employees that will benefit from this minimum wage. The percentage is very small.
Yeah, so you're saying Labour has not explored all the avenues?
I don't think Labour has.
What do you think is left?
Several options.
Okay.
It's not only in the public and private sector. If you get into a dispute, there are dispute resolution mechanisms. First, you need a mediator. A mediator does not resolve it. What do? You go to a conciliator. A conciliator does not resolve it. What do? You go to arbitration. If arbitration does not resolve the problem, what do? You go to NIC, which is the National Industrial Court. None of this has been explored. This is a negotiation between employers and employees. Don't forget, government is government on one side, and it's also employer of labor. Within this same negotiation team, there is the private sector. This kind of noise, you don't hear it in the private sector. Why? Because there's already a machinery.
Okay. We know that the tripartite committee, take cognizance of all of these sides, and they had come together to have an agreement on how to move forward and all of that. But let me bring it to Femi. Sorry, to Comrade Declan here. Now, you've been following this development, and one thing that some analysts have said that should have been done in the first place was putting a time frame to when this implementation could take place. Agreements were signed, yes, and the report was sent to the president, but there was no time frame, and it seems that is what government is playing around with.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel embittered most of the time when the issue of minimum wage comes up in this country, especially knowing fully that Nigerian workers are very highly underpaid compared to those who are there politically, who earn so much money in this country. And I find no reason why we're finding it difficult, you know, to finish up with the minimum wage issue. There's nothing like time frame or no time frame. I detest this position of politicizing everything that has to do with the common man on the street.
Who is politicizing it?
Of course, I see the government politicizing it. It's not on this government. It has always been like that when the issue of minimum wage comes up. You see, it's very painful, and painful in the sense that most of these people who are to decide the fate of these workers are earning so much that they refuse to have the consciousness of the fact that these downtrodden Nigerians deserve more pay than they are getting now. How much is 30,000 naira per month? Some governors are saying they are willing to pay 22,500, less 7,500. What does that signify? And you find out that most of these governors go home every month with what we call security votes. Security votes. And these monies are being spent lavishly by these people before the civil servants who are earning less. And so what you see at the end of it all is that most of these civil servants who are underpaid will definitely engage in one corruption or the other to better their lives. So for us to really get to the root of even solving corruption in this country, we must make sure that our workforce are well paid. Because if they are not well paid, what you see is that they begin to compare their lifestyle with those that they are serving, and they want to measure up to those standards. And what
Let's
do they
even
do?
look at the fact that the governors seem to be the ones who will be the deciding factor of whether 30,000 naira will be paid or whatever the figure would be if it is upped at the end of the day. Now, the minimum wage is supposed to be on the exclusive list.
Yes.
And now you have a situation where it's the governors that are saying we're not able to pay, or even those who can pay, you know, are saying, yes, we're ready to pay whatever figure, you know, we come up with. This idea of it being on the exclusive list, I wonder what you have to say about that.
Yeah, normally minimum wage should be on the exclusive list.
Yes.
But I'm not comfortable when it has turned out to be that the governors are the ones deciding. That is where I feel politics has really set in. It should have been a directive, okay, from the federal government that this is the minimum wage, and it should be carried out by every governor. Okay, in a situation where you hear some governors even saying that we are ready to pay more than 30,000, and some are saying we can't even afford 30,000, we can afford this. I think that is unfair. I want to say it clearly here. There is no state in this country that cannot afford to pay 30,000 minimum wage to its civil servants.
What is missing then? The political will?
Yeah, not the political will.
For me, really, I think it's a question of priorities. You are the CEO of a state, as it is. You get this allocation from the center, and then you are supposed to generate internal revenue. The two together become the basis of what you can expend over a period of time. You then tell yourself, what are the issues, what are the things that I need to carry out on a monthly basis, on an annual basis? What should be the priority? Should it be salaries? Should it be infrastructure? Should it be security? Should it be whatever? Then you tell yourself, this is what is available to spend. This goes for this. If people actually appreciate the place of salaries in an economy, I don't think we will be in all this mess that we are in, where some states are saying we are owing salaries for 14 months, for 20 months. It's unheard of. It's ridiculous. Because we don't appreciate the role. Because there are multiplier effects. There are linkages. You pay me salary, what do I do with it? I don't hold it for a month. I spend it to buy. Where I buy from, it enables them to go back. You know, you can trace it and keep tracing it, and then the economy multiplies.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, because our people don't seem to see it that way, they get in there and they feel that, oh, after all, these are human beings. I can talk to them. I can persuade them. I can tell them that, oh, sorry, things are difficult. I give you an example.
But they're not even saying that. They're saying, look, we're not here to just pay salaries. That's what the government.
I think the arrogance with which some of them go about these things is even irritating. You ask yourself, why did we put you there in the first instance? Development is about people. It's not about the facilities. It's about the people in the system. And so if you go in there and you say you are not supposed to pay me salary, or some of them saying that we are talking of the living and the near dead. Talking of pensioners now. I hear some governors are saying that you are talking of we can't pay salaries to the living. You are asking that those who are almost gone. How you know when you hear this kind of things, you just ask yourself, are these Nigerians like us?
All right, what is the role of the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission that fixes the wages and allowances of public office holders, for instance? One expects that at times like this, where we're talking about, you know, there was a statement credited to the president at the meeting with governors recently, talking about the economy being in a bad shape. In a situation like that, what is the role of the Revenue Mobilization Commission that is supposed to maybe scale down or review the salaries of, because a lot of people have said, well, all the public office holders are earning so much, so that everyone can make sacrifices to ensure that we cut down. Maybe let me come to you, Declan.
I've said it time with that number and different fora that it's unfortunate that we have always been having leaderships that are not sensitive to the plight of the ordinary man on the street, who are so much self-centered when it comes to earning money, either legally or illegally. And until we have leaders who have the consciousness of feeling the pulse of the ordinary man on the street, I've said I don't see why we cannot afford to pay 30,000 naira or above to our civil servants or to those who are supposed to earn this money. Just of today, I'm hearing that staffs of the National Assembly are also about embarking on a strike, and that's because they want to also enforce their own right in getting what is legitimate to them. A situation where you see, I've been to the National Assembly several times, you see the senators living flamboyant lives, you see the House of Rep members living in flamboyant lives, and I am working for you and you are not paying me. And most of the people that carry out the duty or that makes the National Assembly function are these civil servants who are underpaid. And so,
those who make the machinery of governance.
Yes, they are the ones that have been underpaid. And so, you are in a situation in the country where there might even be sabotage, even from this underpaid staffs. Sabotage in the sense that they might delay certain documents from flying. They might delay certain work in the governance of the nation to slow down. And so when you make your workforce happy, what you get is a better turnaround of the society. But how many of our people in government who are ready to sacrifice?
All right.
Sorry, I think on the issue of revenue mobilization, I think there's a lot that's shrouded in secrecy in the way they operate. Yes, constitutionally, they are supposed to be responsible for political appointees. But at the end of the day, we truly, I don't know of except the senators and the House of Rep members themselves. I don't know of anybody who has a clear idea of what exactly goes into their pocket every month.
Well, they tell you
today
that their
you hear is
salary,
30 million, tomorrow you hear is 7 million.
They'll tell you their take home is about 700 or 750,000 monthly. But the running cost is
allowances
seems to be the issue.
All of that.
That's about
so 30, what it means is that what the revenue mobilization allocates to them is one thing. What they then on their own appropriate for all those other things.
All right, let's find out how Nigerians are seeing all of this, especially now that the Christmas is right around the corner.
And as Nigerians prepare for Christmas and civil servants wait with bated breath for the implementation of the proposed 30,000 naira in January 2019, some person spoke with TVC Breakfast on this matter.
30,000 naira.
Yes, that 30,000, even it's too small, but we can say manage it.
Everything is increasing every day. What we are buying that time is not what we are getting, and things are changing.
The cost of living is high, and the purchasing power is low. So it's going to have a traumatic effect on the psyche of the family.
All right, you heard it from the people there. Comrade Declan Ihekaire is here and Femi Mokikon. All right, the people have said it there. I mean, the first respondent there said 30,000 is even too small, but we can manage it.
Yeah, honestly, if we go by reality, it's very easy to compute this thing. Ask yourself, what does it take for a man to live, live well, just to live? Then you can say in Lagos, in Abuja, Port Harcourt. Then you can go into the rural area. The man, is he married? Does he have children? Let's say he's not even married. Does he live in a rented apartment? Does he have to transport himself to get to where he's going if he has to go to work? Is there any provision for medical? What social security networks are available for him? You take all of this into consideration and you ask yourself, 30,000 naira a month, what can it do? Yes, you may say yes, it's not enough. But when you look at the companies that are, or the organizations that are supposed to pay this also, they have their own challenges. Are we making enough money? Every time salary goes up, what do we do to our prices? We jack it up. If we jack it up, will the market be able to absorb it?
It defeats the whole purpose.
If the market does not absorb it, what does it do to us? Our volume will go down. If volume goes down, what do we need all the facilities for? Then we will reduce the facilities. Reducing facilities indirectly means that you will reduce the number of people that you are carrying. So this thing has a cyclical effect, which we need to manage very, very carefully. Looking at the absolute figure, you will say it's low. What's 30,000 naira after all? Some, not even ministers, not government officials, some individuals.
That's less than $100.
Yes, precisely. Yeah. Okay, in a month. And it is out of that 30,000 that we deduct all the deductibles.
For all the bills and for all the upkeeps.
Everything that the guy has.
Meanwhile, South Africa has just upped its minimum wage to about 100.
Exactly.
Please don't give us that in isolation. You should also tell us the cost.
The cost of living
in that place, yes.
Exactly. If you do the maths here and there,
it's coming to the same thing.
It's coming almost to the same thing.
Almost to the same thing. Absolute figure they are getting, no doubt.
All right.
What is the price of fuel in that place?
Exactly.
What's the price of bread? What's the price of... You don't
the cost of living. Now, Declan, let's come back to the issue of the negotiation that has been ongoing between government and this committee. Do you think government is insensitive? Because right now, there hasn't been a communication to the labor, organized labor, to say, this is what we are going to do and this is what we are about to do.
Is it even about insensitivity or sincerity of government? Because remember that, you know, when NLC clocked 40, the labor and the productivity minister, Chris Ngige, came out and said, oh, by September, you'll be getting, you know, very good package.
Exactly.
You know, the workers will be smiling.
What do you think, Declan?
Yeah, I've said it time with that number. It's quite unfortunate that, like you said, I think our government is highly insensitive, you know, to the plight of ordinary Nigerian workers. It's not with this government alone. It has always been like that right from the onset. And so, but I'm seeing a situation where this government might end up resolving the whole issue, because as far as I'm concerned, it appears we have a man who like appears to have a listening ear to the plight of the people, that Mr. President. If you watch his body language recently, I think he's of the opinion that the 30,000 naira should be paid to Nigerian workers, and left to him, I think Nigerian worker deserves more. But those that are to actually work out these things are the ones that are politicizing this issue, who does not see any reason why an average Nigerian worker should get such.
But you would think that the buck stops at his table. I mean, he's the one who would decide to actually, you know, sign the minimum wage bill.
You see, I think we will be going through this every 5 years, 7 years, unless we address it on a long-term basis. You see, all the steps we've been taking, whether it was the one that was signed in 2010, 2011, the one before it, we go through this motion all the time. Why don't we, for once, sit down and challenge ourselves? Let's think outside the box and ask ourselves, what's the long-term view that we need to take about this? And some of us have proposed in different fora that we need to decompose this whole thing called minimum wage. There's a basic component to it. There's a housing component to it. There's a transport component to it. Why don't we make basic standard for everybody? Because you are paying basic for the content of the job. You take the job of an officer, whatever the officer is, transport officer, TV officer, in Lagos, in Maiduguri, in Kano, in Kogi, is the same thing content-wise. But the factors that are around it, they vary, location by location.
Exactly.
All that content that is fixed, that is standard, that is common, we rate them and pay them the same rate, regardless of where you are. Then when we come to the other components, this 30,000 we are talking about, maybe housing out of it will be 10, maybe transport is another 10, You can't even be, maybe basic is probably 12, okay? Housing is 5, transport will be whatever. Then we say this basic that is constant, let it be constant for everybody, regardless of where you are. Then when it comes to housing, housing in Lagos,
Lagos will be different from
Lagos will be
Exactly.
different from other places. Abuja will be different from other places.
Port Harcourt is different.
To me, this is the long-term view we need to take of this. But to do that, we then need to go, you know, you mentioned something earlier, you said exclusive legislative list.
Yes.
Should it be so? Some people have argued that yes, it should be so. My friend said it earlier on that it's better to be on the exclusive legislative list. But we need the state. There are some states that can pay twice that 30,000 we are asking for. But because they have said it's minimum wage, of course people like to keep to that threshold. Even though he can pay 40, he can pay 50.
But isn't it safer in that regard? Because if we're saying, okay, I have the capacity to pay this, but because the law says I should pay 30,000, for instance, I have the capacity to pay 60,000. But let me stay within what the law has specified. But we have others below who will say, well, I'm only struggling to pay 30,000. So are we not safer in that regard instead of...
You know, the challenge is, let me use what happens in the private sector. Because we are competing, we like to attract the best.
Exactly.
So even if we sign an agreement, and the agreement says minimum salary in this sector is 50,000 naira, nothing stops me from paying 70,000. Why? Because I want to go to his own place and grab the best brains there. Unfortunately, in the public sector, it's not like that. You are from which state? That's your state. You remain there. Regardless of how competent, how incompetent you are, you remain in that place. Whatever is agreed goes. There's no competition. There is no basis for me to feel I need to do that extra to give me the edge.
Yes.
And so it makes it difficult. In fact, in those days, we used to hear that whether they sell or they don't sell in Yoruba, we will get our salary.
Isn't that the major problem that the public, the
public
civil
sector?
service is having when it comes to the issue of productivity? I don't care. What's important is at the end of the month, I get my pay. And people would tell, I've said this over and over again, quoting El Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, you know, as soon as they took over administration, said, look, this government will fall flat on its face on whatever brilliant policies it comes up with, unless the civil service is actually reformed.
Yeah. You see, whether the civil servant or a civil servant feels or believes that he's doing nothing, all he earns is that he must earn salary at the end of the month doesn't really matter. The functionality of every government resides on the civil servants. Who are the civil servants? The cleaner, the security man, those in the offices, office assistants, and all those things.
The clerical staff.
The clerical staffs. And without these people there, I don't see any government functioning very well. And so what you see is that whether you like it or not, I feel the same way when I go to some ministries. I see people just walking around,
loitering
offices,
around.
and you ask yourself, who are these ones? And they tell you it's a staff, it's a civil servant, and at the end of the month they get their pay. But one thing is, I think we've got it wrong right from the onset of setting up the civil service stuff, where you have so many people who are employed politically. Politically, in the sense that once I'm a minister, once I'm a commissioner, or once I'm a governor, I bring in people. And once that has been the case in this nation, you find out that people are no longer responsible to the civil service rule. Rather, they are responsible to those who brought them into power. And so you find out that whether you like it or not, they must earn their living. And so that is not also to say that the government should not also, pay them what they should.
So now,
take.
what is the way forward? I mean, you talk about labor exploring other options before it, beyond going on strike and shutting down the system or the economy.
Yeah, you see, labor has one language. Injury to one
is injury to all.
Is injury to all. I want us to challenge that. I asked recently, how old is that expression? And somebody said it's as old as trade unionism itself. If it is that old, shouldn't we therefore begin to challenge it? You have issues in the public sector. The public sector is a fraction of employees. The private sector is functioning very well as far as wages are concerned. no dispute, you negotiate it and you pay. Why should whatever is going wrong in the public sector become the problem of the private sector? So this whole concept of injury to one is injury to all. I think we need to challenge it. We need to think more about the effect of whatever decisions we take. What is the effect on our economy? Short term, long term. The world has gone. It's not going to wait for us. We are already lagging behind. Every step we take to keep us further behind will make things worse. Some of us are already getting old. Very soon, in another 30, 40 years, we will check out. What about our children? 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, who still have 50 years, 70 years to live? What kind of nation do we want to leave behind for them? So I think labor needs to be mindful. And this is applicable not only to labor. Every sector, every pressure group in this, including government itself, we must be mindful of whatever decisions we take, whatever actions we take, on the consequences on the economy. Because at the end of the day, it is all about you, it's about me.
Okay, well, this is where we leave it, and we certainly have so much lesson to learn if everyone has to put hands on deck to work towards the betterment of the country. Femi Mokiko, Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and Managing Director, CEO of Interventions and Results, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
And we also thank you, Comrade Declan Ihakare, National Coordinator, Activist for Good Governance. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Coming up on the program.